Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we are reading the Mr. Sandman. We're getting into the wonderful world of Sandman and Neil Gaiman. I don't know. We haven't read any Neil Gaiman comics on this channel yet, right?
No, this is the first one.
Yeah, this is the first one technically, although we did very early on, I think it was like episode 7 or 8 or something. We did 1602 by him, but then they got corrupted, so we had to bail on it. But
this is true. For the channel, this is the first one. We will hit back on that one eventually. We just wanted to give it some time to
we wanted it to be fresh when we
again.
talk about it and not just be like, oh yeah, we just read this last week again or whatever. But so this is the first Neil Gaiman comic. Is this the first Neil Gaiman comic you've read?
I mean, outside of that, yeah.
Yeah, besides 16.
Yeah, no. Like I've read some like I read American Gods, but
Okay, so you've read his prose stuff.
yeah,
not
but yeah, I've never read any of the comics.
Okay, yeah. Like, I mean, Neil Gaiman, he gets a reputation, especially more nowadays, I think. But when this came out, he was part of that whole, like, British invasion, right? So, like, you had, this is right in the middle. Like, Alan Moore is writing Swamp Thing, or maybe just finishing Swamp Thing right now. Hellblazer has just kind of started on its own run. And then this came out. So he's one of the new main big writers. I think Grant Morrison had just written or was in the middle of writing Doom Patrol.
Okay.
So all these new British authors came out and started writing for Vertigo specifically. They're all kind of adult-ish titles. There's more violence. There's more horror. There's more gothic kind of feel to them. There's also better stories, which is what was bringing everybody in. I mean, and the art too. I mean, the art was like, if you look at the art in this book, especially the covers and all the, if you look at the art in this book, you would be like, this is a mainstream DC book, especially if you look at the art from Batman back then.
Oh yeah.
Or anything else. You look at mainstream characters from back then compared to Vertigo books, you're like, what the fuck? Panel layouts, page layouts are all over the place. I'm going through Swamp Thing right now on Matt's Minis, and if you guys like Swamp Thing or you ever wanted to know about it, check it out because I'm reading every issue on that. And so we're right in the middle of like this whole area of the 80s, and the panel pages are just going crazy. Like, they're doing whatever they want. They're like, fuck your standard panel grids and all this stuff. They're like, yeah, we're gonna have Swamp Thing, vanish over here and then like appear on the bottom part of this page and split the page down diagonally and put like 40 panels. They just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see this kind of stuff and see them being creative. They have I don't think they have any bars on them, like creatively, other than like the usual, like, okay, you can't like have extreme sex or whatever in it or something, or like stuff that DC can't sell at all. But like, you can definitely have adult themes in this. So
no Swamp Thing penis.
No Swamp Thing penis. But you could definitely allude to drugs and stuff, or things like that, and death, like horrific deaths too. There's some of that in this. So Neil Gaiman, like I said, was part of that whole initial run, and I want to say, I mean, this is probably his biggest series, most epic series, and this is what put him on the map in comics. I don't think he's ever written anything as good or as epic as this series since then, comics-wise. His books now, I mean, American Gods, Neverwhere, and all of those things I think are fantastic. But just comics-wise, I don't think I've ever read anything like, I read his Eternals run, even 1602. It's good, but it's not like, this has like a totally different feel to it, I think. Even just starting from the first book here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we read the first book, the first trade, and this is honestly one of the strongest, of those first books I've read. I mean, Alan Moore, obviously, with the Swamp Thing, his first book of that is probably just as strong as this, but I mean, Hellblazer takes a little bit to kick off a couple issues. If you just started reading the first issue, you'd be like, it's okay. But like, you keep reading it and you get more intrigued, kind of thing. Because we read the first trade of that.
Yeah.
And I would say like this intrigued me much faster than that.
Oh, very much so.
So like he starts off strong and pretty much keeps being strong the whole time. I really liked everything in this. So.
Yeah, and like you're saying, that specifically like the art and the way that it's laid out and the panels is very different and very much like engaging the entire time. It was like it's like you flip the page and then like there was one that the perspective is from inside of something and you're like, oh wow, like that's the whole panel is like looking out of this at the characters differently, and it's just cool to see it all drawn that way. It's
like, how do you draw it, like a fisheye lens or whatever? It's crazy. I was kind of how do you draw a fisheye lens effect on I don't know, it's just like that's a very hard thing I would think for an artist to do. But Sam Keith is the fucking man. He does the first 3 issues of this book, I believe, and then it switches over to his. He had like a second guy helping him too, and that second guy then kind of switches to be the main guy for the rest of the book with another helper. So, but I guess initially you could say Sandman is created by Sam Keith and Neil Gaiman themselves. So, because all this whole world is set up by the way that Sam Keith draws him, and so basically, we're gonna start. This first issue starts in the right before World War I for America. I guess it's been kicking off already in Europe, but in America is not kicked off yet. Is 1916, and we're in England, so they're fighting. And there's this guy. He's dropping off a book to this dude named Mr. Burgess. What's his first name?
Mr. Burgess is his first name. That's Roger.
Roger Burgess.
And the guy who's dropping it off is Dr. John Hathaway.
Yes. And so Roger Burgess is supposed to be some kind of like dark magician, kind of like an Aleister Crowley, Yeah. And like he sets up this whole world at the beginning, like this is all about, like magic and intrigue and that like weird occultic world that was going around because of like Aleister Crowley and like the interest in like magics again and stuff was growing in the 20s, I guess. And so, this Roger has invited Mr. Hathaway over to get a book, and basically, his Hathaway's son died in a destroyer that was sunk by Germans, and he's like, my son died, so I'm bringing you this book. He works at a museum. He stole it from the museum. And it is, what is the name of the book? It is
the Magdalene Gilmore.
Grimoire.
Pardon me.
So, which is actually
Grimoire.
like, if you know this book, it's the Gilmore Girls.
The Gilmore Girls.
It's the Grimoire Girls. So the Magdalene Grimoire. So this is actually a real book, I think.
Oh.
Or at least I've heard people say the Grimoire when they talk about magic texts. And I looked this up before just because I was trying to research like magic.
Back when you were in magic school?
Yeah, it was when I was in my Harry Potter magic school. No, this is when I was like doing research for my comic itself. I was looking at different types of magic, like rune magic and all that stuff. And this was something that kept coming up, and I was like, "What is this?" And it's like an actual book that's like, "This is how you summon demons and all this."
You have something you've been meaning to tell me?
Don't look in the back room. Don't look in the back room.
I wonder why that one's always got a padlock on it.
And tinfoil on the windows and. Yeah, pentagrams on the floor.
It smells like incense
and dog blood. But yeah, Canine spiritus. Oh yes. But anyway, so yeah, Hathaway has stolen this book because he was told by Burgess that, hey, if you give me this book, death will not be a thing anymore. I'm going to use it to conquer death. And so Hathaway's like, please. If it's true what you said, take this book and make my son come back and no one need ever die again, kind of thing. So Burgess now has this book, and one of the things that's cool is we kind of see these people in the real world and how what's going to happen affects them through their whole years of their life. So we start off, and there's like a kid in Canada, and she's being told a story that terrifies her, and it's like the what's the story? It's like Through the Looking Glass. So it's like what's the
Alice
in Wonderland. There you go. That's what I was like. What's the name of that story? Yeah, Alice in Wonderland. So she's being read that to like go to sleep, and she's terrified. She's about to go to sleep. Then there's like another kid in Jamaica, and he's dreaming about like a castle made of clouds and flying in the clouds and stuff. Then there's like a guy who's a German soldier fighting in France, and
who's way too young to be there.
Yeah, he's 14.
Lied about it, how old he was.
Yeah, he's 14. Lied about how old he was, so he could go fight. And you know, now he's dreaming, but he's about to have to go over the top of the trench again, and he's very, very scared. So, and then the last one is a woman in England named Unity, and she is just, you know, about to fall asleep. She, you know, just regular person fall asleep, basically. So the whole point of this book is that he is like the head of this society, this coven, I don't know what you call it, but like a cultic society.
Yeah, I would say a cult society.
Yeah, and him and his son, he's trying to teach his son about it too. His son's name is Alex. He's like, Alex, you know, when I die, you will be, you will inherit this leadership.
You will be the, what is it, the Magus?
The Magus, yeah. So he actually makes his son call him Magus because it sounds like father, and he's like, father. He's like, Magus?
Magus?
Sorry. But Magus means like head magician or whatever, like head. He's the Dumbledore, right?
Yeah.
The Dumbledore of this world.
The evil Dumbledore.
Yeah. And so basically they've got this book, and they're trying to what he says, he's got his whole coven together, and they're trying to do a ceremony to trap death. So they can control death and then like have the power over death.
Have the power of death.
Yes. So he starts doing this, and this is why I thought this was familiar, because I hadn't read any of this magic stuff when I first read this like 15 years ago. And since then I have read this magic stuff, and all the things he says are actually from the book. Like it's like how you summon, and also it's like all the stuff from, what's that movie? The guy that did Midsummer, the first movie he did. The Hereditary,
yeah.
So all that stuff, the payment stuff, that's all directly from this shit.
Oh, okay.
So that's why the Wind of the North and all that shit is all directly from this. So if you're trying to call payment, you gotta, give me a coin made from a stone. I give you a song stole from the dirt, like all this weird shit. I give you the feather of an angel and all this shit.
Please stop saying those words.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then you see the room getting all dark and it's like fucking Evil Dead in here. Yeah. I'll swallow your soul. But yeah, so he's doing this spell, and they're calling what they think is death. So they're doing it, and everybody's chanting, "Come, come, come forward." All these names of these devils they're talking to are actually like from that book.
Yeah.
So they're actually supposed to be real devils. One of them is called Maimon, and that's Payman's other name, I think.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if you ever wanted to know where Hereditary got its shit, it's from this book, The Magdalene Grimoire. It's fucking weird and creepy and odd, but yeah, you can check it out if you feel so inclined.
If you have to do your thing.
Yeah, if you like magic. One thing I like about this too is, one thing that's also different about this book for this time is every page is bordered with like a weird, like intricate, like filigree or whatever, like around the edges. Yeah. Like it's an old house with like, what's it called? Like
crown molding or whatever?
Yeah, crown molding or something around each page, and it's all different in each page. And I'm just like, how long do you fucking take to draw just the outline?
It's very intricult.
Yeah.
Because inside of them there's like, it looks like it would have been like hand carved wood or something.
Yes. It's just weird. It's a whole aesthetic that this book really makes from the art. That's why I really give Sam Keith a whole, and each one's different. They look similar, but each one has got like, the next one's got like a dragon, and the other, like it's crazy shit in it. So, the fact that he drew each one of these for each separate page is kind of ridiculous and very cool. And
he sit there, he got the main art done. He's just kind of sitting there. He's like, what would look nice on this?
I always wanted to draw.
I'm gonna put a dragon on this one.
Yeah.
He's like, I got extra time.
Yes. And so these guys are doing their chant and everything, and finally they're like, we come together to summon you. Come, and they call this being into this circle that they've made, and it looks very weird at first. Like when I first saw this, what did you first think when you saw this?
When I first saw it, I didn't know what to, because it's like there's a big black cloak, and it looks kind of like there's some puffy clothing to it, and then also the helmet that is on the head of this thing very much looks like a
alien,
weird
right? Like
alien-esque. Yeah, like the engineer helmets that they have in the Alien franchise movies. Yeah.
The engineer being the being that they find on the spaceship.
Yeah.
That always looks gigantic and everything. Yeah, like it's. Yes, when you said that, I was like, oh, it's totally like Geiger, like very, very Geiger-esque.
It is, yeah.
Helmet.
And you said he had worked. I guess he had worked on a Alien comic.
Yeah,
right?
Sam Keith drew a bunch of Alien comics.
So it was probably
80s,
an ode.
so,
yeah,
maybe he just like this is what I would think it looks like or whatever. But and then also we should say this is actually a reboot of the old 50s character Sandman.
Yeah, which is cool. I had no idea. I should at this point, as many comics we read, I should know like, oh yeah, this awesome one that Matt has been telling me to read is probably a reboot of like a really old, like 40s, 50s, or 60s comic.
Well, much like Doom Patrol was different than until Grant Morrison wrote it, and the same with Swamp Thing was different until Alan Moore wrote it. These are the new updated versions of these kind of creepy or gothic characters, or they weren't even gothic characters before. They just ended up being able to be made into these cool characters. And put in this Vertigo line that was more adult. And so that's kind of what I guess Catherine Berger, the editor of Vertigo, brought on these people to, these British people to like give a different perspective on these old classic characters or just different kind of classic characters. Because later they even talk about the old 50s one and you wouldn't even have known. Like this is such a different character than that one. But they explain it and it makes perfect sense. So like I was like I'm really happy they like tied it in nicely and everything because it says like, hey, we respect the old, but check this shit out. Like this is my thing. You're like but I also am happy that guy got to do.
But I know where I came from.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, this thing is in this circle surrounded by these occultists. And it's got 3 specific things that you notice in this last panel of this issue, which is there is actually not the last panel, it's the like beginning of this issue, but it's got a crystal like a ruby in his hand. There's a bag of something.
Yeah, it looks like a little pouch for like gold or something.
Yeah. And then or something.
Or something.
and then he's got the helmet like you were saying, or like it looks like it might be his head at first, If you've never read this before, you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at as far as his face is concerned. But later on, we find out it's actually a helmet because they remove these things. They take those things off of him, and we see it is in fact a helmet. And so, under all that stuff is a man. They take his all the stuff, including his cloak and his clothes, and they put him inside of a glass cage, I guess.
Glass orb cage.
An orb that it's not a cage. It's a glass orb that they use as a cage that's inside of the circle because you can't break the circle or else he'll be able to get free if he can get out of the glass cage itself as well. So, or the glass container, I guess. So, they're like, and right away they're like, oh no,
that's not death.
We failed. That is not death. This is something else. But they're like, it's close enough. Like we'll figure something out to do with it. It's still a powerful being that we've trapped. Like, hey, sometimes you shoot for the stars, you hit the moon. It's pretty good, So they go,
that'll do.
Yeah, that'll do. Exactly. That'll do, pig. That will do. And so they have this thing trapped, and right away we see all those kids and people that were sleeping or about to go to sleep. The girl who was reading the looking glass, she fell asleep, and she never woke up. The Jamaican kid that was playing in the clouds, he's running on the clouds in the castle. And then all of a sudden, the clouds disappear, and he's just falling forever. So like, and he's too scared to sleep ever again. It's because he wakes up and he's like, and then the people or the guy that was about to, I guess I don't know, he might have been a French guy. It looked like he had a German helmet on, but
it did look like
maybe I'm wrong.
A German helmet.
Maybe they just didn't know how to draw French helmets in the World War I or something. But basically, this dude wakes up. And they're like, we've never seen shell shock like this before because he's just stuck, always awake now. He can't sleep and all this stuff. And then the last one, Unity, is asleep forever. She's never woken up. So, and but this is at the beginning of it. So like they're just at these beginning stages of after Dream gets captured. We find out that the person they captured is Dream, not Death. And it is now a problem because
people are either not dreaming or continuing.
Yeah, things are going wrong in the dream world, basically. We don't know what it is, but Yes. They figure out eventually, soon after this that, well, it's not, like they look through enough books and they find out it is Dream that they've captured. They knew it wasn't Death, but apparently there's a bunch of other siblings of Death that all start with D's. There's like Destiny and Delirium and all these other ones. And Death is one of them, and Dream is the one that they finally figure out because of the way his helmet looked. They find like a drawing with the helmet on it. They're like, oh, it must be this one. So they're like, we have Dream. We don't know what the fuck we're going to do with it, but we got him in here. And so, like I said, you get the panels where they're looking through like the glass orb that he's stuck in.
Yeah, he's looking out at them, and it's this is some of the really cool art in this. It's like, yeah, how do they the perspective that you have to draw on that?
Yeah, he had to. I assume he just had to like, I don't know, put a fisheye lens up and then draw someone's face and then make it cartoony or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, because that's the other thing. Sam Keith in this, he draws very cartoony faces, which I would imagine would make it harder to do the aspects,
Oh, yeah.
because you're trying to draw like an exaggerated face. You can't just put someone's actual face like a model in a fisheye lens and then draw. Yeah, you have to actually, you have to do the cartoony face and then figure out what that looks like with the fisheye lens. So yeah, it's very weird. And this is in the 80s before you had like computers and shit to just do that. So
yeah,
he couldn't just draw it normal and then be like fisheye, click,
Yeah.
So this is just a brush I have or whatever, an option I have. So, but yeah, basically we see that they're talking and they're talking to him and he's just saying like trapped, observe, and they're like, huh, like we see that you're trapped in here. The crystal cell imprisons your material aspects, so you won't get out unless the circle is broken, and the circle will not be broken unless I order it, kind of thing. Like we said, there's a circle around the glass orb. And he's like, let's discuss the conditions for your release. And so basically they're like trying to get power out of him, and he just doesn't talk. So then it skips ahead 4 years, and we see like some of the fallout from this. Basically, he doesn't talk the entire time he's in this for the last 4 years. And we see the guy, Hathaway, that gave the book to him, he's like, you've blackmailed me for too long, Roger. And yeah, basically he's like, I'm going to like write a note. And I don't know if he's going to kill himself, if that was part of this or not. But I feel like this is like the spell that he's doing through this, because we see Burgess or Roger and his son Alex are looking at a glass orb, looking at Mr. Hathaway, about to leave this note, and I guess leave maybe, but then he ends up stabbing himself with a knife. So I think that's part of, and burning the note. So I think that's part of.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty
doing
sure
magic.
He's doing
Yeah, and so like no one knows what happened, and they're like, like in the news later, it's like we're pretty sure he stole things, but we don't know what he stole, and he stabbed himself unfortunately with one of the artifacts.
So
yeah, but it's very weird. We don't know what happened. But in the meantime, like we said, everybody's been like sleeping and everything. The people that were in those conditions are still in those conditions.
Still sleeping, so. And then it jumps ahead even further. Now it's going to be 1930. Yeah,
and we see like, oh, some of the people that were part of the occult that were like the right hand man of Burgess. Well, apparently that guy ran off with the mistress of Burgess and stole a couple artifacts, being the money, it was 200,000 pounds in cash, and he stole the magical helmet and the
gem orb.
Yeah, the ruby, right?
Ruby,
like,
yeah.
The ruby and the sand, I guess, too, right? And so stole the three things that he came with. And so that's kind of like a big deal. We don't exactly know why yet, but and when Roger finds this out, obviously his son Alex is now kind of grown up, and he's like, I don't understand, like, what about the prisoner? Like, can't we make him do something to these people? He's like, we can't make him do anything. He hasn't even talked.
He doesn't talk.
He hasn't even talked for fucking 15 years or whatever. And so the dad's like, he's trying to do spells to kill this guy, like his right hand man that ran away with his girlfriend, and nothing's worked until 1936 when she leaves him and steals the stuff that they stole, and he had made like an amulet to protect himself, and turns out when she left the grounds that guy was at, he just like exploded. Which is pretty crazy because he has so much bad curses that they've placed on him. And then this is where we see it's 1939 now. We're jumping ahead even further. And these people that were kids, they were children, that were like, oh, read me a bedtime story, mommy. They are in the same spot. So it says the girl who was getting read the Looking Glass story, she's still asleep. She still thinks she's 8. She wakes up every now and then. It says twice in the last decade. And every time she wakes up, she says she's crying for her mother and she thinks she's 8 years old, even though she's like in her 20s or like 30s now or whatever. So like, this is super fucked up, I thought. And then like the Jamaican kid, he's just always awake or like just a sleepy sickness kind of thing. He's like a zombie.
Yeah, basically, he's so tired that he is in this like sleepy sickness, they call it, state where he's like, zombie-esque.
Yeah. And then Unity is still asleep. It says she was raped, had a baby girl. They gave it up for adoption. And she was asleep through all of it. She didn't remember any of it because she's just been at this hospital forever. And of course it was hushed up, the scandal, because wherever she's being kept is probably like, doesn't want any of that nonsense. And
very Kill Bill situation.
Yes, exactly. And then we see, this is the little nod to the old Sandman. So it says, the universe knows something is missing and it slowly attempts to replace him. Wesley Dodd's nightmares have stopped since he started going out at night. And he puts evil people to sleep with a gas and then sprinkles sand on them, leaves them for the police to find in the morning. The idea came to him in his sleep. He doesn't dream about the man in the strange helmet anymore. No more burning eyes. Everything's all right. Wesley sleeps the sleep of the just. And so basically, since he started going out fighting crime, that's like the universe trying to fix Dream being captured or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's how they kind of throw this old Sandman from the 40s and 50s into this world. But he was just like the universe trying to make up for Morpheus being gone or the Dream being gone. And so, like I said, Dream, his real name is Morpheus, or his other name is. So if I slip up, that's why.
Yeah, you're fine. I was like, we didn't reveal that.
We didn't reveal that yet, but whatever. It's not. I mean,
it's not yet.
It doesn't really.
That's
matter.
His name.
That's his name. He's not blue pill, red pill Morpheus. He's just the first Morpheus. And so, yeah. And then we cut to 1947, and like the dad Roger, they haven't done anything with this guy.
Nope.
Like they won't do anything to him. And he's like, you should help me. Why aren't you giving me like anything I want? And like why do I have to get so
getting old now?
Yeah. And then he like basically is kind of like he's just dying, as he's getting older. And at the final point, we see that the son Alex is kind of now in charge of everything going on during the normal day stuff. He's got a lover that's like he just says like, oh, it's his best friend that lives in the house with him, but it's obviously his gay lover that they're not really like out there with or whatever kind of thing. And then soon after that, the dad dies. Like I said, he kind of had already taken over, for his dad for the most part. So
so he is, I guess, the Magus now.
He's the Magus, but he doesn't really seem like he's that much. Like basically, they're just using it kind of like for status.
Yeah, because he even say like he doesn't really read much of the book anymore. He only really reads the one page that has the image of death or Dream.
Yeah, Dream on it.
So like he's really just obsessed. Like my dad brought you here this whole time, and you have just been quiet for 30 all these years
the whole time. And then when it says his lover is like he doesn't believe any of this. He just basically uses it for like status as well. So it's just kind of like being like I'm part of the Masons or whatever. We're just a club that's.
Just some good old boys.
Yeah, a societal club that helps us get jobs or whatever, some shit or whatever. And so, eventually, Alex starts getting older, and he's just getting older. He's finally like in a wheelchair, and we see like death is like it's 1988, and I like this part because this page is great because it just kind of skips ahead 10 years a bunch. It goes like 1966, 1972, 1978, 1982, 1988. And every time you see Alex is older.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've killed people, I will do it to you. And then we see like Morpheus saying soon. Like, but not out loud. He's saying in his head. He's thinking in his head. So this is like the point. This is where he knows this old man's about to die.
He's gonna fuck up,
and something's gonna happen because basically they've had someone watching him 24/7 this whole time, and they can't sleep on the job because obviously they're in a room with Dream. So if they sleep, he might be able to influence them. And so, as they're pushing Alex away, his wheelchair scuffs the floor where the mark was, the circle. And if you've ever watched Supernatural as much as I have, you know
you cannot
break those circles. Those circles need to be in place, God damn it, to trap whatever you're trapping. So, basically he scuffs the circle, and then there's still the thing of the orb. So the orb is still holding him in there. But one of the guys that's watching him just kind of drifts off, goes to sleep, and he's like, "Now," like,
yeah, this is that. I like the way that he starts doing this.
Yeah, so he pretends to be dead. And then they come over to him, and then they unlock it for him, and then he was able to, in that dude's dream, the guy was on a beach in the dream, and he had grabbed like a handful of sand in the beach, and so when they open the orb to like check him out, he's like, and he like blows the dirt in their face, and they all like fall asleep instantly, and then he is fucking pissed basically, and. If you know what he looks like, he basically looks like a goth guy. He's got like ivory white skin.
You know what he reminded me of, especially as we get further along and his hair starts to like, kind of like I guess grow or get a little puffier.
Yeah,
he makes me think.
The Cure?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The lead singer of The Cure.
Yes, the lead singer of The Cure. Or if you've ever seen Neil Gaiman, quite a lot like Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman. That's true.
So I don't know if he was the model for this or if it was actually the guy from The Cure. But yeah, he's got that Cure hair for sure. And like ivory white skin. Everybody of his family pretty much has this like ivory white skin. That's kind of like their I guess family resemblance. I guess.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so he gets out finally. He like instantly goes into the dream world, and he's like, I am so fucking hungry. He's just flying through people's dreams, and it shows him like grabbing food in their dreams, like he's eating whatever is in their dreams. And they're like, people are like. They're dreaming, and then all of a sudden this naked white guy will run through their dream and grab some food and then be like, thanks. And then like he's eating it. He's getting a little bit stronger, just enough so that he can try to figure out how to get back and get revenge on the people that entrapped him, basically. And so he's able to make clothes. So he makes clothes. And I thought the way he looks is so 80s. But he's got like a trench coat. Or like a black duster. And he's got like Doc Martens on.
Yeah.
He's,
slacks.
Yeah, he's definitely 80s out or whatever. He looks like the Crow with a duster, basically.
Yeah, he does. That's a good.
He doesn't have the little eye makeup, but because his skin is so pale.
His skin's so pale, and basically his eyes are black with white pupils. So
yes,
might as well have eye makeup on.
Yeah, and he automatically is like, they've stolen my 3 things of power, so like I need to get those back. But I need to get revenge as well. So right when he gets out, all of a sudden the people that were affected from age, 8 or whatever.
Those young children who are now old as hell.
Yeah, I'll say 3 people because one of them, the guy that was in the war, he killed himself, I think by the second time that we cut back to them.
Yes.
He had killed himself just because he was so horrified like by shell shock and not being able to sleep or whatever. And so, but we see the girl who finally, or the girl who was in the looking glass, she's like an old woman now. And she wakes
Mama?
up. Yeah, she wakes up and she's like, Mom? And everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, she woke up. And then the Jamaican guy, people were talking to him, and he's just apparently just been like walking through town like a zombie for most of his life. And someone says something to him like, oh, he's crazy. And he's like, not anymore. And he starts smiling. And then we get the woman who who gave birth. Yeah, this broke your heart. So she's in like a nursing home, and she like wakes up and she goes, my baby. Yeah. She's like, I dreamed I had a baby, and she starts crying. And so like he's just like, Jesus, these people missed their entire lives because this guy like wanted power or whatever. So then we see Alex. He's not dead yet. He's he's going to sleep, actually. He's taking a nap. And so he starts dreaming, and then all of a sudden his dream starts going badly. For some reason. I don't know why. What could happen? But basically, all of a sudden Morpheus shows up, or Dream shows up in his dream, and he's like, hello. And all of a sudden Alex is like a child again. He's looking at everything like he's a child. And so he's like, oh my God. And then like Morpheus is like, what's the matter? Cat got your tongue? And basically he says, I'm going to give you like the worst thing I can think of as I am the Lord of Dream and Nightmare. I'm going to give you the eternal, what is it called? Like the eternal waking or something?
Yeah, the eternal waking.
Yes. And so basically it's like when you in a dream. What, you want to explain?
Oh, yeah, because I fucking loved this. Yeah. Anytime you're in a dream and you have that moment of epiphany, like, I'm in a dream. I need to wake myself up. And you wake yourself up, and then you're in another dream. Like you wake yourself up.
It's like a movie.
Realize, yeah.
You know, like in a movie where they wake up and then there's like they get killed again. It's like, oh my God, that was a second dream.
Yeah.
Now I'm really awake. And then except every time he wakes up, it's still in a dream.
It's still a dream. So, and that's forever now.
Yeah.
For him.
So he like makes him have, and it's always a nightmare. It's always like something horrible happening.
Yeah.
Every time, like he wakes up and he sees his lover's face melt, and then he's like, "Oh my God!" And then he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, that was close." And then he looks at his nurse, and his nurse's head falls off, and she's like, "Oh, what are you having a nightmare or whatever?" And starts laughing at him, and then he keeps waking up, and it's like this horrible sleep, basically, that he's going to have forever.
Forever, yeah. Basically, not allow him to die. Allow him to forever have these horrible nightmares and just keep. That's so fucking fantastic. Yeah. I loved it.
Good way to end that issue. So he finally wakes up and gets revenge on, or he gets released and gets revenge. Now, the second issue starts with two main characters. Have you heard of these characters before?
So I've heard the names obviously and like
right. Not the biblical
yes.
ones, but in DC, have you read anything with them? Okay, so they are from the House of Secrets and House of Mystery series. I don't know if those two series. They appear in Swamp Thing, the one I'm reading with Alan Moore, quite a bit. And so they just run those two houses. So like whenever they're kind of like the Crypt Keeper, but for those two comic magazines, or comic issues. So if you go to like the House of Mystery, you're going to I think it's Abel's, and then the House of Secrets is Cain's. So each one will like be the introducer of those stories or whatever, and then take you through those stories.
I really like their looks; they're very cool looking.
Yes, but this is the Cain and Abel from the Bible, or based on the Bible characters. That like Abel is the shy, timid one who's always like, Cain, it's my birthday, but I don't want a present from you. I know it's going to explode. He's like, what are you talking about, Abel? I love you. You're my brother. I would never kill you. And so like,
why do you say anything about kill?
Yeah, exactly. So, so basically, every kind of issue with them always ends with him killing Abel. Not in this necessarily, but in all the other ones. Like in the Swamp Thing issues, if they start off with them, they'll end it and be like, well, that was a close one. And then he's like, push, and you like push Abel off the cliff or whatever. Or it starts off with Abel getting out of a well that he got pushed into and he's drowned or whatever. And shit like that. So they kind of have fun with these characters being like the Crypt Keeper and introducing storylines and whatnot. But basically, they control these two realms, the House of Mystery and the House of Secrets. That's like just out. It's like the suburbs of Dream's world or whatever, Dream's area. So they're kind of like, he always has to pass through them to get to his kingdom. And so he shows up in his weakened state, and at their door, he gets captured by Cain's gargoyle. Gregory. And as he says, all gargoyles start with a G name.
Yes.
So he's named his Gregory, and it has captured something. And they're like, oh, what does he bring? And then they see, oh my God, it's Lord Dream. He's been gone so long. No one knew where he was, and now he's back, but he's so weak and everything. And so they're trying to help him out. And he's like, I just need my things. Where are my things? And they're like, we don't know. And basically they're trying to give him some food, kind of rehab him. And they're like, he's like, I need to go to my realm. So like they kind of take him to their realm, and they're both like arguing in the background, like, should we take him? Because like it looks like shit or whatever. And he's like, no, just whatever. He'll find out sooner or later. It's not our fucking fault. Like, and so like obviously something's happened to his realm. And we see like kind of it looks a bit trashy and whatnot. And then we cut to this. This is the only thing. This was like here for no reason, kind of just to introduce this idea. But we cut to a section, or just like a little sliver of this comic where we get introduced to someone who's named Mr. D, and his mom is showing up at Arkham Asylum. And she's like, I need to visit my son. And she slips him a trinket, basically. And she's like, I'm going away, but you'll be getting stuff in the mail, and I'm going to give you certain things when I die or whatever. So that's kind of, they just set up, there's this guy named Mr. D in Arkham.
Yeah.
And then they don't really touch on it until later. But like, this was the only thing, like if you've never read this before, you're kind of like, wait.
What is this?
Why do we need to cut to this and then never talk about it for 3 issues or whatever? But anyway, basically, so they show Dream his realm, and it is tore up. His castle is completely, disintegrated. Then he talks to his groundskeeper guy named Lucian, yeah. And Lucian's like, oh yeah, like, I mean, I tried to like keep it up, but it just started falling apart slowly the longer you were away. So, I tried what I could, but,
Yeah, but as long as you were gone, like, it's basically disarray and decayed at this point. Like,
yeah.
Sorry.
Couldn't do anything about it. And so, like we said, he's got to find out, he's got to get his 3, things of power. He's got to get his necklace, he's got to get his sandbag, or that pouch, which ends up being a bag of sand, and then his helmets. And so, he has to do like a spell to call forth the 3 witches of Hecate. And if there's a comic called The Witching Hour from the 70s, and one of the witches is one of those witches for sure. But I don't know if all 3 of them ever like introduced that series or not. But basically, they are, I think, 3 characters from old series in DC.
They look like, honestly, even the one kind of like, the one looks like very much like a classic witch. The one very much looks like Sabrina.
Yes.
Like old 50s style Sabrina.
Yes.
And then the other one kind of is like
just a grandma or something. Yeah. Like a hocus pocus witch.
Yeah, or hocus pocus.
But yeah, he calls them up and he's like, hey, I need to find, I was trapped. You guys look great, by the way. And he keeps calling them different names or whatever. Or they're saying, call us this, call us that. Because basically they've had different names over the many millennia they've been alive. And so he's like, hey, basically I called you here. I need you to tell me where my things are.
And this is the first time that they call him by his name, is Morpheus.
Yes, this is where we find out his name is actually Morpheus. And so, like I said, not the one with the blue and red pill, but
nope. I just thought it was interesting. Like, I was like, oh, okay, like, because they didn't make a big deal out of establishing it. It was just like, hey, what's up, Morpheus? We're the Witches 3, and then they go into their spiel.
Yeah, and so they say, well, the one that looks like Sabrina says, the man who has your sand is an Englishman named John Constantine. He purchased your pouch sometime back or whatever. So we know John Constantine has part of this, which I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's cool.
And then we see the middle-aged witch. She's like, hey, the helmet was traded to a demon some years ago by the guy that betrayed Burgess.
Yeah, the guy who ran
away.
Sykes.
Yeah, Mr. Sykes. He ran away with the mistress, and the reason why he traded it was he traded it to a demon for a protection amulet so that he wouldn't die, which is what got stolen when he did die eventually.
But I like that she was like, it's no longer on the mortal plane, so you're gonna have to go somewhere specific if you're gonna find it.
But it's a demon, so
yeah,
you're gonna have to go. To hell. And then the last one is like you said, it's not just Batman; it's also Green Lantern. That's why. So they hint that, or they say, someone else has taken this. The Justice League knows the whereabouts of this amulet or the necklace that you had. So
thing.
Yeah, the stone that you look for. And so I looked this up. This is actually it's a pre-crisis story, and it's actually the guy that we saw in Arkham is a dude named Dr. Destiny who fought with a red gem prior to Crisis and prior to this Sandman series. And he, I guess, would like kind of make, it's kind of like Scarlet Witch, where he could make like realities change and shit based on this stone. And so he fought the Justice League. They finally defeated him. That's why he's in Arkham. And they kept this stone as part of their fucking, menagerie of...
The trophy.
Yeah, the trophy room. There you go. And so that's why Batman's holding it in this one. And so like, yeah, go talk to the Justice League. They know where it is. So And now he knows where he needs to go. And that's pretty much the end of this issue, other than we see...
Cain and Abel, they also have a little side story. And Cain's like, here you go. I hope you will enjoy this sweet birthday gift. He's like, I really don't want it. He's like, no, you're going to want it. And he opens it up, and it's like, oh, it's a baby gargoyle. Oh, that's so sweet. He's like, what are you going to name it? Irving.
He's like, no, you can't name it Irving.
All gargoyles have to start with the letter G.
Yeah, and then they get in a fight over that, and that's why he murders Abel.
Yes.
So he's like, you stupid motherfucker, it's gotta be a G.
Gotta be a G.
He kills him over that. So, basically every time they're in a comic, Abel always gets killed or whatever. So.
He comes back. I guess it's not like obviously not.
Yeah, basically he gets killed and he comes back. It's just like an ongoing beef that they have in the comics. So, kind of fun. And then we get, and this is an issue, I did not remember this issue, but it is a Constantine issue written by Neil Gaiman. He has written another couple issues, I think, in the actual Hellblazer series. But I need to pick this up because this is one of my favorite issues I've ever read of Constantine or of Hellblazer in a long while. And I did not remember this being like so good or like even in this opening series. But this is like a fantastic issue, a very hard-hitting issue.
Yeah, this one's...
but basically we see a woman who is... I don't know, she's got the patch of sand. She's just waking up, and you see her hands are all like...
kind of scabby. And,
it's just worn, and
yeah.
She's not even in the sunlight except like what's coming through the window. And we see like, it says like, her fingernails grew long and brittle. They broke off. The ragged nails ripped her skin when she scratches. Her stomach shrank, then bloated, then it shrank again. Hunger subsided. She doesn't even eat anymore. Like, just, she's in terrible, terrible health, but she's got this bag of sand and she keeps reaching for it. The sand that's in this bag. So that's how it starts. Then we cut to John Constantine waking up. And he's, of course, smoking right away. That's his modus operandi. And so that's like the first thing he does, reaches for cigarettes, smokes, goes outside. And I like this. Instantly, it switches to Constantine writing. If you've ever read Constantine, it's all in his head. It's all little thought boxes that he's talking. It's never him talking to people generally.
Yeah.
Very rarely he says a sentence or two to someone, but for the most part, it's all, narration in his head, which I thought it was very cool that he just like went to that for this issue. Because it feels like a Constantine issue, like from the Hellblazer series. Yeah.
And I did like, this is kind of like, that's why I was doing it at the beginning too, is because like they have the radio on in this one and Mr. Sandman is playing, like, so they're like, he's already hinting at it.
And not only that, every song about dreams, he keeps like humming. He's like, why do I keep thinking of these dream songs or whatever, And so he's going about his day. And then he even has like, the people that are around town saying like, hey, someone's looking for you. The Sandman's coming to get you. And he's like, what are you talking about? But these are like magical people that he knows throughout town. And some of them are like crazy people though and whatnot. So he kind of writes them off because of that. But yeah, so then we cut to the house that we had at the very beginning again. And now it's nighttime and someone's breaking into that lady's house with the sand. And instantly as he comes into the house, he's like, I must be dreaming. And he's just like in like a weird sex dream that he, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's just like in a weird sex dream, like the most intense dream he's ever had before. Then he's driving in a Ferrari. Then he's like Jesus dying on a cross. Then he's like Superman. And then it's just like ridiculous. And then he says absolutely nothing, And so we don't know what the fuck's going on in this house, but it's something going on in this house.
As soon as he went in, something crazy started happening.
Yeah, so Constantine comes back from breakfast, still smoking the entire time. And, as he walks in to his house, Morpheus is already there waiting for him. And he opens the door and drops all his newspapers and everything he had. And he's like, oh, my God. Like, you must be. He's like, yes, I'm Morpheus and blah, blah, blah. Like, they obviously Constantine has never met him before because he's been trapped or whatever, but he knows of the dream, these people or whatever. So he's like, let's go. You have my sand. He's like, no, I don't have your sand, but like maybe it's in my storage unit or whatever. Like we can go look there. That's the only place I can think it would be. And so they go to his storage unit and he's like, Constantine, there's nothing here.
I do like he makes him change. Like he's in his like long robes, and Constantine's like, I'm not going out with you around town looking
like a dork.
like that. Yeah. So he like changes into like I guess a more natural like trench coat kind of thing.
More 80s looking.
Yeah.
And then he still says like, really? Okay, I guess that's good, as good as we're gonna get, kind of thing. So which is funny because it just looks like Constantine's wearing the same thing. And
yeah.
Constantine's judging him based on what he looks like because it's black, I guess. But he's wearing his his beige or his tan colored trench coat or whatever. So yeah, they go to his storage unit and he's looking through stuff and Morpheus is like, "There's nothing in here. I can feel the sand. I can feel my items, and there's nothing in here." And he's like, "No, hold on. There might be something." And then he sees a picture of him and a girlfriend, an old girlfriend. He's like, "Oh, shit. I know what happened to that sand." And he basically recalls that he had a girlfriend back in the day who was like obsessed with this bag of sand because he could never get it open.
Yeah. Like,
I guess you have to have like some kind of magic to get it open. But once it's open, you can access the power of the sand and whatnot. So he could never get it open, but the girlfriend was always like, "There's got to be something in there, something worth getting it open or whatever." So she must have stolen it, when they broke up or whatever. So that's what happened. I guess they had a fight, or no, he went away for a while and then they broke up, and she went into his apartment and just took all her stuff and then whatever she wanted out of his apartment because, hey, it's breakup. Whatever.
Yeah. So
she took that bag of sand and he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know that." So they go there and then they go to her house, like where her newest address is, and he's like, "The pouch is here.
The pouch is here.
I can feel the power in this home." And they go into the home, and he's like, "Well, before we go in here, I can feel there's something you don't want to go in here. Like, you're a human. This isn't going to be good for you." And Constantine's like, "Nah, I'll stick around. This is starting to get intriguing now that you're telling me there's some weird powers in here that I shouldn't be around or something." So basically they go in this house, and right away, Constantine's got his lighter out trying to get some light, and they find the guy that broke in, and he's just dead.
Yeah.
He's just like being eaten by dreams is what Morpheus says. But like basically the house is feeding on him, or something's feeding on him. And so then Morpheus is like, let me turn the lights on. He just puts like a ball of
pure light energy.
Yeah, luminescence or whatever out, and just he says whatever. What do they say?
Lumos.
Yeah, Lumos or whatever. And there you go. He's got a ball of light. So then they open a door, and Constantine's like, it's dark in here. And he switches on the light, and he's like, there's something on the walls. And then all of a sudden, Constantine is falling
from like the sky, like he's dropped from the sky randomly.
Yeah, like he's in a dream and he's falling. And then all of a sudden, Morpheus flies down. He's like, "Constantine, wake up! We're standing right here in the house. We're awake.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Don't go crazy." And they're like, "What the fuck?" And then you see this room, and it is like a living organism. The walls are just covered. It's like they're inside of an intestine or something.
Yeah.
Like,
it made me think of Dragon Ball Z when they go inside a Boo.
Oh yes, yes. It's all pink and
it's all
It's a little bit more bloody than that, like more visceral.
It is a little more creepy.
But yeah, basically they're saying like, "Oh, the walls are alive. Everything's alive," and then he's like, "But how?" And then Morpheus says, "The pouch," and then you see something. The walls, everything starts talking to him and like becoming faces and shit. And they're like, "Leave here, leave her. The woman is ours." And then they look and they say, they're like, "Oh, Master, you're back. We thought you were gone.
We thought you were gone.
We did not know. We thought you were gone for good or whatever." And so basically he's like, "Yeah, all right, no worries." Basically we find out she is a kind of a drug addict to this sand that she found out she could open it.
She was able to figure out how to open it, and now that's why she's like reaching for whatever. It's like she literally has like an addiction to like going through
the
and
most
having
wonderful
like,
dreams.
Yeah, the most crazy dreams.
And she's just sitting there like totally naked, but like shriveled up. Her skin is like totally like, I don't know, sloughing off of her or whatever. It's so super gross. And she's just like, "Dream, dream, dream, whatever I want." Like she's just like so out of it and everything. Her hair's falling out and everything too. And Constantine starts smoking. He's like, "Jesus, Rachel, Jesus." And like he's just freaking out. And then Morpheus goes over to the bag of sand. He's like, "I have the pouch now. The dreams will return in time.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
We don't need to collect every bit of sand or whatever. They will come back to me now that I have the pouch. That's what's important, the pouch." And so they're like, "We can go now." And And then Constantine's like, please, like, you can't leave her like this. Because Morpheus is like, why not? Like, whatever. She's immortal. Who cares? She did this to herself. And he's like, you can't do this to her. You can't leave her like that. And so he's like, very well, Constantine. Go outside. I'll do the right thing or whatever. And so, Constantine says his farewell. He says, like, Rachel, sweet dreams, my love. He walks outside, and then Sandman throws some sand in her face, her, like, broken face, like a fucked up face, and then she looks beautiful again, and then it says the veil of tears lifts and she feels the flesh flow back into her bones again, and she knows he's waiting for her. John, hello, and he's like, hello, love, it's been a long time, and she's like, did you miss me then? He's like, nah, and she's like, you bastard, I love you, and he's like, I know, and like they just have like a nice little walk into the sunset, and that's her last memories. Yeah, or the last dream.
Her last dream is like a nice, peaceful way to go.
Yeah, basically. Like reuniting with John and having like we love each other, walk off to the sunset kind of story. Or
it was cool because like so far, you really didn't get a sense that he was motivated on revenge, and now it's getting his stuff. So you really didn't get a sense of him being like necessarily a character with heart. Is more just like
and he doesn't really have a heart necessarily in this, but like Constantine's like, come on, and he's like, okay, I will give her this.
I mean, he didn't have to. He's
kind of above it though. He is like a god, so it's like it doesn't matter either way to him though. But he's like, if you insist, I'll do it for you, Constantine. So it's still like he is still like above us, but yes, he is he's not a good guy, but he's like,
he's not
a bad person.
Yeah, he's not like evil.
Yeah, no, and but like he is above like. All the dreaming, like they're kind of above us. They're indifferent to humans. And, his first thought was, well, she kind of did this to herself. I don't need to do anything. And Constantine's like, no, you fucking do.
You will do something.
Yeah. So then Constantine's like, well, that was a fucking crazy thing. Did she? And he's like, yeah, she died peacefully and happy. And he's like, thank you. And so he's like, you got your sand back. Where are you going now? And he's like, I'm going to hell. And so Constantine's like, well, have a good one. So then they say goodbye, and that's pretty much it with Constantine. The one last thing he says, he's like, hey, and this kind of ties into the Constantine mythology. He's like, hey, before you leave, real quick, I've been having the worst nightmares ever since Newcastle, and if you know what that is, that's like he had basically when Constantine was a young whippersnapper and thought he knew about magic, he got a bunch of friends to conjure up a demon, and it did not go well. A bunch of his friends
died.
Yeah, and so that's all covered in his own series, Hellblazer. But for right now, he says, hey, I've been having nightmares. I can't sleep. Can you at least take the real bad ones away? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And then he starts singing, Mr. Sandman, as he's walking away. So, and then we start the next issue, which is him going to hell, like he said. He takes some sand out of the pouch. He travels down to hell with it. And, basically goes in. He meets Etrigan.
I did like that. That was cool. I was like, hey, I know who that is.
Yeah. And so Etrigan is, a demon that appears fairly often in the DC universe, created by Jack Kirby. And he fights with Swamp Thing a couple times.
Yeah.
By his side, I should say. They also fought the blackness that is mentioned in this issue that specifically references the Swamp Thing issues that I just did in Matt's Minis. So
good timing.
Yeah, good timing on that. But basically, he goes to hell, and the demons there are like, you are not Morpheus. You do not have his helmet or his, medallion or whatever. And he's like, it's me, fucker. Just open the gate or whatever. So he gets a little pushback from these demons, and then he's like, you dare, fuck with Morpheus or whatever. He like grabs the demon's face, and then Etrigan shows up, and he's like, hey, no, that's him. Let him go.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So then he lets him in, and he says like, hey, there's been some changes in hell since you were here last. I'll bring you to the castle or whatever, but you should notice it's not just Morningstar. Morningstar being Lucifer of Satan, the ruler of Satan. Prior to this, he was the only ruler of Satan. Then we find out since the blackness has happened, the darkness that kind of split hell in its ranks, there are 3 people that rule hell together, kind of like a parliament or some shit.
Yeah.
Basically, they're called the Triumvirate, and it is Lucifer Morningstar. He's one of them. And I love the way that they draw him in this. And also, this is the first issue where Sam Keith isn't drawing. So this is where you get like a different look, and it makes sense because it's hell, right?
Yeah, like it also like fits for this because he went to a different dimension basically.
Yeah.
And so like hell, they make it very like goth, gaudy, very over the top.
Yes, it's kind of like a I don't know, like a 70s version of hell or something.
Yeah.
Like just like everybody. There's all these weird people with pitchforks like stabbing people, and there's fire. It's like how like I don't know. I saw this old animation cartoon of Pilgrim's Progress, and whenever they showed demons or hell, it was always like this, like just over the top. Just they're stabbing people with pitchforks, like almost like Looney Tunes or some shit.
Yeah,
a little bit more mature than that, but definitely in that realm of like we're doing what we're supposed to do, stabbing people. And torturing them because they're in hell. Like they might as well be singing, while they're doing this kind of thing. So, but yeah, we see Lucifer looks exactly like David Bowie in this, which I thought was fun. It's very fun. He also looks like
David Bowie with gigantic bat wings.
Yeah, he also looks kind of like Gabriel from the Hellblazer movie, the Constantine movie, because what's her name that plays Gabriel in that is so.
I don't
remember her name.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Tilda
Swinton,
yeah.
Something, yeah. She has a very
it's kind of
androgynous, I guess, look in that movie, and so yeah, that's why they kind of went like David Bowie, Tilda Swinton, but before Tilda Swinton, obviously. So I'm gonna say David Bowie look in this because he's got the different eyes too.
Yeah,
and so I like that a lot. That was cool. They made Lucifer look like that and then also this is also the precursor to the series Lucifer, so. That actually ties into all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
Because he's not king anymore, and he eventually decides to leave, and he becomes Lucifer, in his own book on Earth. So, yeah, it all ties together if you
read
cool. All these in the right
That's
order.
cool. I didn't know that. My wife would probably love that. She loves the side stories like that where hell on Earth, but
I really liked that actually. Like if you read these all in a certain order, it all ties together in a certain way. Not forever, but like the way these start and end and everything. Like if you read Swamp Thing first, then Hellblazer, then this, then Lucifer, they all make sense.
That's really cool.
The order they go in. So very cool. And they all will tie together as far as why did Lucifer leave? Oh, because in Sandman, blah, 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 or because in this, that happened. So very cool. But like I said, he's only one of the triumvirate now. There is, I believe it's Azazel.
Yeah.
And Beelzebub. So Beelzebub is a big fly, who, if you've read Swamp Thing, is the fly guy that corrupts Cable. Or actually, it was like, I guess he's that was actually, what's his face? Arcane. That was Arcane, but he looked like this, so I think he was like, part of this guy's like league or whatever, Beelzebub's league. This is a giant fly god or whatever, so he's part of that league. And then, like we said, Azazel, who is just like a weird, like, he looks like a shawarma ball.
Yeah.
Like a big ball of meat or a beehive or something. I don't know. Yeah, but they're floating around talking to each other like, we all rule hell now because of the blackness or whatever, the darkness that came. So if you don't know, what happened is the darkness came that was going to overthrow heaven, and it was so powerful it even was more powerful than hell itself. And because of that, hell split. It was like, I'm going to side with the darkness because if they win, then we'll win heaven. And then somebody were like, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's side with Swamp Thing and the Justice League Dark and the angels and shit. So like that's what happened is basically hell split over that fight because they didn't know what was going to happen when the darkness won or if it won. Newsflash, it does not win because Swamp Thing is fucking awesome. So, and we literally just the last issue 50, which is the last one.
I'm just a couple behind.
I know. I'm just saying, but issue 50 is the one where he wins. So, if you want to hear that story, that's what I just read. So, but yeah. Anyway, we meet these three guys. They're like, "Hey," they're like, "Why are you here?" He's like, "Hey, one of your demons has my helmet." They're like, "Which one?" He's like, fuck, I don't know his name.
Like, okay, well, we'll call all, like, how many millions of them?
Yes, millions of demons. We'll just, obviously we're all powerful here. So the castle disappears. They're standing on like a little podium in the middle of millions of demons now that have been called.
He's like, all right, now pick out. Which one was it?
Which one was it? And he's like, fuck. He's like, oh, my sand. I'll just pour a bunch of sand and then let it find, my helmet or whatever, or the demon that has my helmet. So it finds the demon and he's like, that one. And that demon's name is Choronzon. Choronzon. I don't know. It's a weird name. It's like Choronzon. Choronzon. Or Choronzon. I'm not sure how you would say it. But yeah, basically Choronzon. We'll say Choronzon. That's easier to say. So Choronzon, he's a weird looking demon, but doesn't look very intimidating or anything. He's got a bit of the Tim Curry. But he's got a bit of Tim Curry Rocky Horror vibe going with his outfit. He's like a pink demon. He's got 2 mouths though, which is kind of cool. And basically, he's like, "Hey, look, man, I traded that fair and square with that guy I gave that amulet of protection to, so I didn't break any of Hell's rules. So he can't just demand I give him back his helmet." And he's like, "Well, I mean, he could fight me in the battlefield if he wants." And this was kind of cool. In Morpheus's head, he says, "A challenge. I do not know if I am strong enough. I truly do not know." And he's like, yes, I challenge you, or whatever. He has no problem just going for it. He's like, "I need my helmet." So then this is what I liked. You thought they were going to fucking fight swords? Nah.
No, this is like straight out of the Sword and the Stone kind of battle.
Yes.
Where they have the two, Merlin and Madame Mim, have like their little like one-upsy battle. Like, who's going to have the cooler creature, the cooler thing to beat the other one?
Yes. You could even have this be like, if you only had one shot.
Oh, yeah. It's perfect. It's like, it's a rap battle.
It's your 8-mile rap battle right here. So basically what this is he sets up like a whole club where all of hell's watching. And like immediately hell turns into a nightclub.
Yeah.
And
ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for coming this evening.
We got Choronzon and Morpheus challenging each other tonight. So we're like, oh, what are they going to challenge each other for? And so basically, it's like a game of what would it be, like puns or like chess puns or something, like, or not puns, but like a 1-up chess. So it's like. So let me explain it. So the first thing that happens is Choronzon goes, "I go first because I'm the one who's, defending or whatever." So he goes, he says, "I'm a dire wolf, preying, stalking, lethal prowler." And then Morpheus has to come up with something that can beat that.
Yeah.
As like a image. And these images are actually real because Morpheus says like, "Oh, I feel like the grass between my hooves and shit and whatnot." So it is like you have to actually come up with something that works or else the images will fail. Your image will fail for real and then you'll lose or whatever. So he's actually saying if he loses, he's going to lose his whole, like, he's going to have to end up being this dude's like prisoner in hell or whatever. So he does not want to lose. So Morpheus is like, "I'm a hunter, a horse-mounted wolf stabbing." And so you see, a hunter come up and stab the wolf. And then we go back and then Choronzon is saying, "I'm a horsefly, horse stinging, hunter throwing." So you see the horsefly bites the horse, it throws the hunter, and then so we just go on and on, kind of like I don't know why she swallowed the fly, the fly. She swallowed the fly to get the whatever, and then the spider, and then the blah blah blah. So like it just goes up and up and up, trying to one up each other, up until the very end, where Morpheus in his head is like, after a while, he's like, I think I figured out this guy's modus operandi. Like,
yeah, he feels like he figures out where he can go and he can trap him.
Yeah, so he says, "I am the universe, all things encompassing, all life embracing." So we get to the point where we went from, wolf to horse to all the way, "I am the universe." So like, what's better than that or what's bigger than that? And then Choronzon thinks, "Oh, I got him now. I can totally get him." He's like, "I'm anti-life, the beast of judgment. I am the dark at the end of everything, the end of the universe, God's worlds of everything." And he smiles and he's like, "Well, can you beat that?" And then Morpheus turns to him and goes, "I am hope." And Choronzon's like,
What? Wait a minute. I don't know.
And so then he loses. And then, basically, hell is not pleased with that. So they're like, "God damn it. Fine, take Choronzon down and torture him for being an
How
asshole."
dare you lose?
Losing. And you get your helmet back. So he gets his helmet back. And then he's like, "I'll be on my way." And they're like, "Will you now? With all of hell surrounding you, how will you get out of here?" Because they're like, "Hey, we can just, take you prisoner if we want right now. You're not at full power. And we know that kind of thing." And he's like, "Oh, really? What power would hell have if those imprisoned here were not able to dream of heaven?" And everybody like, "Oh, shit. Like,
oh wait a minute, if they're not thinking about if they're getting tortured and they're trying to be like, oh, if only I could get away from this horrible torture and pain and be in a happy, wonderful place like heaven or something,
or whatever, Earth or whatever,
something
away
good
from here. Yeah, basically, I'll just make it so they can't dream of something better than here, and then they'll just be like used to torture, and it won't be fun anymore. And he just kind of slowly walks through all of them.
Yeah, there's just part like the Red Sea or whatever.
Yeah. And then Lucifer actually says, "One day, my brothers, one day I shall destroy him." I don't know if that ever gets fulfilled, but yeah, that is basically the thing. So then we get a little epilogue on this issue where now we're back at Arkham. That guy's mom has died, Dr. Destiny, and she left him with the amulet of protection that the the right-hand man of Burgess had gotten for trading that helmet. So that's kind of why it's like an epilogue to this one, because the helmet was traded for that, and now he's getting it back from he's getting it from his mom. So assuming that will kind of protect him from Morpheus a bit, when he comes to get his, I guess, amulet, wherever they can find it. So, yeah, and then this is kind of like this is like the last issue that this one's gonna be a little bit long because it is like so in depth, but we want to cover everything that happens with him finding his main trinkets of power or whatever. So we have he's got his bag of sand, he's got his helmet now he's got to get his ruby or his amulet. So this guy from Arkham, Dr. Destiny, he escapes. He's like, now that I got my trinket of protection for my mom, I'm going to escape. He gets out, and he takes a woman, on the side of the road. He flags a woman down and takes her hostage and says, drive me to this place, because he knows where the necklace is hidden. And Morpheus does not know. He's got to go to the Justice League or whatever to figure that out. So we get a little interlude of Mr. Miracle on Apocalypse, escaping from Apocalypse. He's having a dream of escaping from Apocalypse and granting goodness, and then all of a sudden Morpheus comes in and is like, hey, let me save you, buddy. You were scared? And then he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, you're in my fucking room. He's like, yes, tell me where my amulet is, my ruby. And he's like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I guess that would be, it was on the satellite in the showroom.
Go talk to Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, he's the guy that kind of categorized all that shit and knows where it is. Yeah, he knows where it is. Martian Manhunter, he's responsible. He knows where these things are. You can't just lose powerful objects, So then we get Dr. Destiny. And we should say Dr. Destiny looks like he's been in solitary confinement for about 40 years. He has skin that is basically just kind of rotten. His teeth are rotting out. He's literally pulling his teeth out while he's talking.
He looks very zombie-esque.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. It does change a little bit once he gets the jewel, and I think that's on purpose. But his hair starts to grow out a little more and whatnot. He gets a little bit more fleshed out. But at this beginning part, when he first gets out, the lady's like, "Please don't kill me! Oh my God, why do you look like that?" And he's like, "Oh, I've been in." Look like what? I don't even know what I look like because I've just been in fucking Arkham for fucking 30 years or whatever. And so, actually, it hasn't even been 30 years, but I think he says it's been in for 6 years or something. But it's all been in solitary, so he hasn't seen the sun. He looks like a ghoul or whatever. And basically, he starts talking to this lady, and she's like, you're kind of nice. It's fine. I'll help you out. There's a coat in the back if you're cold. You get some sandwiches there if you need something. She's going out of her way to be nice. And basically, he already knows where he's going for this amulet. So he goes there while Morpheus is looking for Martian Manhunter. And so he goes to this warehouse. And this was a cool thing, I thought. So Morpheus shows up at Martian Manhunter's house, and Martian Manhunter's like, oh, you, right away. And then he sees Morpheus as some, fire demon. And he's like, Lord Lorzil, I greet you humbly. May you guard us in darkness and on the pathway between waking hours and protect us in dreams from the flame of your wrath. And he's knows who this is.
He basically sees him as I assume what his actual god form would be or something.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know, or what the Martians think his god form is or something. I don't know. So
because Morpheus is a Martian. I didn't realize. I thought that was just part of your name or whatever. I didn't realize you guys actually existed anymore.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm the last of my race or whatever. And so basically he's like, where is it? And he's like, oh, it must be in the warehouse in upstate Gotham in this place that we just saw our buddy arrive at with that girl. And so he's like, cool, I'll be out. I'm going there. And so he leaves Scott Free, who's Mr. Miracle, and John Jones. And I like this panel. They're just like in bathrobes together. Like, hey, you want some Oreos? Like, he's like, I got a stash. You can have some if you want. You know, like, I just thought it was funny. They're both like superheroes, but they're just chilling in their
normal,
lounge.
Normal life.
Yeah, which I thought was very fun. And it fits this time, too, because they're both in the Justice League International, which is like a fun Justice League series, which we will read fairly soon now that you know what they are.
Hell yeah.
We've been introduced to them. So, Morpheus just kind of transports there. He gets straight to the storage place. He walks in, and he finds his amulet because obviously he can like feel it. He's like, there it is right there. He tries to use it, like power it up or whatever, and it freaks him out if something's wrong with it, and it hurts him actually.
Yeah.
And it actually steals some of his power from him again. And then like now it's just sitting on the floor next to him and he's passed out. And then, like we said, Dr. Destiny has already pulled up with the girl, and she's like, well, thanks, you know, if you ever need any help, let me know. And he's like, okay. And he just like pulls his gun out and he shoots her. like they had such a nice conversation the whole time. You're like, oh, he's not that bad of a guy. And then he just murders her.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a nice guy. She's dead. And then he walks in. He's like, oh, someone was trying to fuck with my baby, huh? And he like gets his thing. He's like, oh, it's even more juice than it was before. Great. And he like puts it on. And now he's back to being evil Dr. Destiny, who can control dreams, and not only dreams, but like basically he can make realities, you know, happen or whatever. Like he fucks with reality. So kind of like what's her name? Scarlet Witch. Yeah. So he goes to a diner, and that's where this issue ends. And then, okay, we'll kind of skip through these ones a bit faster because basically now we know who's got the gem and everything. So these last 3 issues are basically the fight between him and Morpheus in this diner. The first one's like what happens in the diner. Basically, he drives everybody in the diner crazy. Yeah. And makes them do horrible things to each other until all of them are dead. But at first, they're just doing little things. Like, you know, they just start arguing with each other. Or they notice, hey, we've been here for like 12 hours. And they're like, wait, no, it hasn't. I just walked in here. And they're like, but they see the clock and they're like, wait, am I going crazy? Or you're like all of a sudden time stops working correctly for them and stuff. And then it just progresses from there. He just starts fucking with them little by little until it ends up them, you know, murdering each other to a point, like just horribly. And like, he's getting the biggest kick out of watching them like kill themselves or have horrible hallucinations of, you know, them like cutting off their fingers and making him like, yay, Dr. D, you're the greatest. And like he's on their shoulders and just like super fucked up stuff. Yeah, one of the girls is a lesbian, and there's like a trucker in there, and he's like, I'll show you. The only reason why you're a lesbian is because you haven't had a right man or whatever. And he like tries to rape her or does rape her. I'm not 100% because they cut away, but not a good sign. Not a good thing, basically. And yeah, so that's where he has basically caused all these people to die and horribly their lives. They're all just left dead. And Morpheus comes in and he's like, what took you so long? Like, finally, someone I can have play with that's like on a level of me kind of thing. So he ends up, you know, talking to this guy and trying to fight him. And now that he's got his helmet in the sand, he kind of feels like maybe I can kind of... He's definitely more powerful. He's more powerful, but this guy with the trinket is... Yeah. He knows how to work it. This was, if you remember, like I said, his actual trinket that he manipulated. They say he put technology in it or something. Like he... You know, I can only imagine them being like, circuit boards or something. Fuck it. Back in the 80s or 70s when they wrote him. Hot glue that shit on there. Exactly. However that shit works. Somehow he integrated technology into this gemstone that possesses the power of Morpheus. And so he's like, let's fight for it. And he's like, what? You don't want to fight here? And he's like, no, we will fight in the dream world since we're both we're using the power of dreams.
More of an even playing field, at least.
Yeah, and so Dr. D is like, "You coward," and chases him into the dream world, and then they have like a big, epic, weird fight that kind of just it's like a really crazy fight that like spans a bunch of different like cities and times and places and everything, because they can go in and out of dreams all as they want. But basically, what ends up happening is Dr. D is like, "Oh, you have all your power in this gem, huh? It's like where all your essence is kept. Well, let me drain more from you." And he like starts using the crystal against Morpheus until like basically Morpheus is almost about to not die, but just like lose all his power.
Yeah, he's after his power.
And then he's like, "Oh, so everything's inside of this, all of you? Well, then I'm gonna smash it." And he smashes it, and what he doesn't realize is that it was holding his power, but it's not his power directly. So like you can't just smash it and you kill me. It's like you smash it and now all the power
basically releases it.
You release the power from this holding cell, and it just goes back to me. So he just actually empowered Morpheus, and he didn't mean to. And then Morpheus is like, "Thank you, John."
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite panels of the whole thing, because it explodes and he thinks he's won. He's like, "Oh, he's disappeared. Like I took care of Morpheus. I took care of the dream god."
It zooms out like, and you think because it's all white behind him, you're like, "Oh, it's like he killed everything." And
no, it's the white from his skin, and he's literally like, I don't know, like
he's in the palm of his hand, like a little toy or whatever, like a GI Joe toy, like those little 4-inch ones. And he's like, "No, John, I'm here. You released my power. Thank you very much." And he's like, "Oh my God, are you gonna kill me?" He's like, "I could, perhaps. I don't know if we need to." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." And he's like, "You know what? I'll just take you home. I'll take you home to Arkham." So he goes back to Arkham, and he leaves him back in there. And basically, everybody there in Arkham was sleeping terribly. But now everybody sleeps well. He actually helps all the inmates get some sleep for once, and they all get to sleep for the first time in a long time. They get a nice, peaceful sleep. So now he has all his things of power, and then there's one more issue that is kind of like just like a little epilogue to all this stuff, where he's feeling kind of aloof now that he had like a mission before when he got out. It was revenge first. Then it was these 3 things, and now he's like, "Well, now what do I do?"
Yeah, I'm back to where I was. So
yeah, and so he actually meets up with his sister Death, who's like, "Where the fuck were you? Like, and why didn't you call me to help? Like, to help you get your fucking power back and all this shit?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," or whatever. And we kind of see like her powers, where she literally is like Death from the movies and shit, where like she just shows up when people die.
Yeah,
and like so there's a kid playing soccer, and he's like, "Hey babe, what's going on? You want to get a soda after this?" She's like, "No, but I will see you later, John." He's like, "Oh, sweet. She said she'll see me later. How'd you know my name? I must be fucking awesome." Like, and then it turns out at the end of the issue, like he gets run over by a car. And she's like, "Hey, John." He's like, "Hey, I didn't know you were going to be back so soon." And she's like, "Well, I mean, I'm here because you died," or whatever. So like, we get that. And then like, we kind of get like, just kind of his aloofness, where he's like, "I don't know what to do now that everything's fixed." And she's like, "Well, there's a lot more to fix." Basically,
it's a little wordy, but I did like the way that it was set up. Like it's them. It's like they're at a park, kind of like reconnecting over the span of everything that he just went back through to get all of his stuff.
Yeah, like it's wordy. This is kind of like there are definitely some sections of Sandman as a comic that get. I mean, he's a book writer, right? So he definitely gets
he's
more
writing
prose.
His prose.
He likes to throw in his, Egghead likes his bookie book. We got to throw in some good fancy writing here, little
what it was
Shakespeare every now and then.
So this is what it is that so it's not like Stan Lee putting boxes over everything and you can't.
No.
It's nothing like that. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's still very fantastic writing. It was just more of like.
Well, after that big fight and epic storyline that we just had, this was kind of like a big, like a pause.
Yeah.
To all the action or whatever, they could have stopped the trade at the last one, but this does wrap up the storyline. So, because now he's like, at the end of this, he's like, and now I know what I'm gonna do. I have to rebuild my kingdom. I have to kind of make sure everybody's dreams are correct and everything again. And now I know what I must do with my life or whatever. So he gets like his purpose back. Stella gets his groove back in this one, right? So that's kind of where we end with this one.
Fantastic.
He's like, there's so much to do in my kingdom, so much to restore, so much to create, but I can't wait. And that's the end of this book. It's 8 issues long. This is the beginning, the first trade of Sandman. So with all that being said, John, what did you think? What would you give this one?
I liked it a lot. Like the art was really good. Even with the change in artist and the style, like I like how it fit. Actually, it almost seemed more purposeful than
right. They did it on the right issues, right? They did it on the Hell issue, and then they did it like when he goes into the diner and he's got his crystal now, so it kind of makes sense that his appearance kind of changes because he's got power now.
Yeah.
So
all of that, like it works really well for this, whether it was like you said intentional or not. Like they just had to change it up. But I loved everything up until not up until like I loved it. It was fantastic. The epilogue where he's talking with his sister Death, it was a little like, I think just because in comic form I was like, okay, like yeah, that's cool, I get it.
Let's get to the 22nd page now.
We could have maybe we could have shortened their conversation a bit or something. I don't know.
Well, but it has to be a whole issue, right?
I guess, yeah.
That's the problem, I think, is it had to be a full issue because you can't just throw that at the beginning. Like, what, you have 10 pages of that and then 10 pages of the rest of the another storyline.
You set up another villain. I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know. But basically, he just did a full story where he gets his groove back, like we said.
Yeah. Sandman gets his groove back.
And John didn't like that.
No, no. It just after all of the
action.
The oomph and action, like it was a little like it was a note that took me down more than I thought I would. It was like, okay, like I was like it didn't wrap at what I would have hoped for, I guess. But overall, I still really liked it, and like I definitely want to continue the series. Like I want to see more.
Yeah, maybe we'll like
the covers were
the second one or something.
Really cool and unique.
Yeah, they continue. Dave McKean does all the covers on these, and I think he did at least most of the series. And they're all like, he does a lot of mixed media and stuff. So you see like actual like paper cuttings and shit in it, and like tree branches and shit that are like real that he just took a photo of on top of the artwork or whatever. Yeah, it's like cool. Weird shit that he does. Very cool. Like he's the only person I know that does stuff like that for the most part.
It's I liked it. I liked everything about it. So yeah, overall, it's a solid start. It kept me going, and like I said, want to make me read more. I'm going to give it a 7.
7, nice. I'm going to give this one an 8.5.
Oh.
After reading this for the third time now, and like I said, I hadn't read it for like 15 years. That might have been the second time I read it that time, and this time having read so much more, I don't think I might have read Swamp Thing then, but I hadn't read all of Hellblazer. I hadn't read all of the other stuff I've read now. So I feel like this just gave me like now that I've been reading Swamp Thing issue by issue, and we've kind of gone through so much DC stuff in this podcast, and it's all fresh in my head. Like this just filled in a bunch of cool stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, this clicks in perfectly with everything I'm doing. And I just felt like this continuity is the kind of continuity I like.
Yeah.
Like where, hey, these series are kind of together, but not in like we're all you have to buy each one in order to understand the story. Yeah. It's like, no, like if you read Swamp Thing, you get the there was a blackness that happened, and then this is in that. And just you don't need to know everything. It just was in it. It doesn't have to be a crossover that you had to buy 10 issues of Vertigo books in order to understand. It was just we're reading each other's work and we're liking it,
I was appreciative to see how he fits into, because like before this, like I really didn't know anything about the character. So it's nice to see how he fits into the DC universe, that he's like actually a DC universe character, and like you can see like, oh, I see how he's going to interact now. Like I kind of see where it's going to go.
Yeah.
As far as like the generalization of his character, like obviously they could take it a million ways, but in general, it's like, okay, this is cool. Like, I want to see how this is going to move forward now. So
yes. So very cool. And I mean, we just had like a conversation with an indie comic writer, Jason Douglas, who was talking about this is his favorite comic. This is what got him into comics.
That's
so like
right.
you get to see now like what he's talking about. Like you read this, and you're like, holy shit! Like this is like a different level of comics or whatever kind of thing. So, or at least the ideas in this are different levels. That's kind of the main thing about those British writers is the ideas that they brought with them. Maybe they didn't execute them 100% all the time or whatever, but for the most part, you look at that and you're like, how the fuck do you think of that? Like how do you execute that so well at the beginning? The first 2 issues of this are so well told of this new character that is actually tied to a 50s character that has nothing to do with that 50s character, but it like makes perfect sense the way he explains it over those 2 issues. You're like, oh wow, this is like really, really good. So I don't know, and now I need to find issue 3 and add that to my Hellblazer run just for funsies because it's part of that. So in my head, it's now canon. So I hope that's not super hard to find now that the show and TV movies and everything are coming out. So I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, I give it an 8.5. John gives it a 7. I'm sure we will read volume 2 at least from this going forward in the next couple weeks and whatnot. But what are we reading next week, John?
Next week, I'm taking the reins, and I'm going to take Matt down a little.
Star Wars?
No, I mean it's a little different route. So this is a true life comic book, but in the wrestling realm. It's called Andre the Giant: Life and Legend. It is by Box Brown. This is basically like not just his wrestling career. This is stories of Andre the Giant throughout his life as told in this comic form. So it's like all these different things from like, obviously, everybody knows like this, behemoth of a man and like maybe, like the Princess Bride and like the couple things like that. But like all of the
things. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Exactly. Anybody want the peanut? But like it actually like goes into the like some of the hardships that he had to go through as well, being, as large as he was, and then also some of the like funny like things that kind of sound like there's no way that's true. Well, no, it was true, and like they kind of like it's kind of neat to put it into this like art form, so you can kind of be like, wow, like you're almost like you were there experiencing this like the once in a lifetime kind of persona.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I have a love and respect of like that old school wrestling, and Andre the Giant's one of the the greatest of all time. So it just seemed like a fun one to throw at you. It's not too hardcore or anything, obviously, but it's like it's a true to life stories too. So it's
those are always fun. We'll switch it up to one of those real books or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, there's another real book coming out which I thought you would be interested in called Ed Gein.
Really?
Yeah. It's about Ed Gein. It's I can't remember what the it's like. Did you hear what Ed Gein did or something like that is the name of the book, but it's by Eric Powell, who did Goon.
Oh yeah.
So it's coming out next week, but we can put it on in the next couple of weeks. So look for a couple of those. We've got a true crime book and we got a real, a biography-ish.
Yeah, biography-ish kind
of from Andre the Giant next week. So yeah, check those out, and we will see you on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.